All right, so we're going to finish up this hand trick lesson with some basic equations, trigonometric equations that we are going to use the hand trick to solve. So our directions for our last set of examples is to solve in the interval from 0 to 2 pi. All right, so on number 10, our equation is the sine of x equals 1/2. So we're going to figure out an angle that's going to be x that falls in between 0 and 2 pi, does not include 2 pi, but does include 0, that has a sine of 1/2. All right, and so because it's a sine, we're going to use the rule that it's going to do the sine, is going to be the square root of the number of bottom fingers over 2. So that means that if we take the sine and we get 1/2, that we got 1 bottom finger, because the square root of 1 is 1. So we want 1 bottom finger. Now the denominator is 2, because every time you use the hand trick to do sine, that denominator is 2. Okay, so then we're going to look at our hand for the hand trick. The finger that has 1 bottom finger is pi over 6. All right, so we have an x that's pi over 6 because the sine of pi over 6 is 1/2. But is that the only angle between 0 and 2 pi that have a sine of 1/2? It's actually not the only angle that does, because all of these pi over 6 angles have either a sine of 1/2 or a sine of negative 1/2. So sine is also positive in quadrant 2. So we want the pi over 6 angle that is in quadrant 2, and that angle is 5 pi over 6. So those are the two angles between 0 and 2 pi that have a sine of 1/2. Okay, so let's look at another one. So for number 11, we have the equation cosine of x equals negative square root of 2 over 2. Okay, now don't forget that when we are using the hand trick to find cosine, it's the square root of the top fingers over 2. So we have our over 2. What we want to have are 2 top fingers. Okay, so if we look at the hand, the finger that would have 2 top fingers is pi over 4. However, pi over 4 is not one of our answers, because the cosine of pi over 4 is positive square root of 2 over 2. All right, so we'll look at our all students take calculus. We want a cosine that's negative, so it's going to be in quadrants 2 and 3. And we would use the pi over 4 angles in quadrants 2 and 3. So it should be 3 pi over 4 and 5 pi over 4. So I'm going to write a note that cosine is negative in quadrant 2 and 3. So we picked a pi over 4 angle in quadrant 2 and quadrant 3. Then for our next example, we have the tangent of x is equal to the square root of 3 over 3. Now for tangents in the hand trick, it's the square root of the bottom fingers over the square root of the top fingers. Now this is weird because this is too many fingers. So we need to think about what the square root of 3 over 3 is before it gets simplified. And that is 1 over the square root of 3. So that means I want 1 bottom finger and I want 3 top fingers. Okay, so if we look at the hand, the angle that would have 1 finger below and 3 fingers above is the pi over 6 finger. All right, and then since this is the tangent is equal to a positive, pi over 6 is one of our answers. And then we want to know where else the tangent is going to be positive. So tangent is also positive in quadrant 3. So we need to know what pi over 6 is in quadrant 3. And that is 7 pi over 6. Okay, we're going to do a couple more, and they're going to be a little bit different. So for number 13, we have that the sine of x is -1. Okay, so anytime you have the sine of x or the cosine of x equal to 1, 0, or -1, we need to go probably to the unit circle. Now, some of those we could do on the hand trick, but probably for the unit circle. And then for tangent, if the tangent is either 0 or undefined, you're going to go to the unit circle. Now, tangent of x equals 1, you actually can do with the hand trick. But the other ones, we're going to go of 0 undefined for tangent, we're going to go to the unit circle. So to keep from having to flip around, I'm just going to redraw it real quick. It doesn't take long. Okay, so if I want to find an angle whose sine is -1, on the unit circle, remember, sine of the angle is just going to be the y coordinate. So we're looking for an angle on the unit circle that the y coordinate is -1. Okay, and so that is going to be this one right here. The y coordinate is -1, so that angle is 3 pi over 2. All right, and then for number 14, we have that the cosine of x is equal to 0. Okay, and then don't forget on the unit circle, if we're finding the cosine, we're going to use the x. And then if we were going to do a tangent one, like we either had 0 or undefined for what tangent equals, that's where we'll do y over x. Okay, so in this case, if we want to find an angle whose cosine is 0, we want to find an angle on the unit circle where the x is equal to 0. All right, and there's two of those actually, pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. All right, so that's it. So what I want you guys to do for your assignment is the worksheet, the Trig Hand Trick worksheet.